in my Washington.
All right, well, before we get started, we have like 1 minute. I just want to let you guys know that this is my last meeting with you. I'll be turning you over to Christine Hotstetler. She works up in the front office. So I just want to let you know the next meeting that will be coming to you will be coming from Christina.
Well, thank you for all your support you've given us.
Well, you're welcome. I'll have to see you like tomorrow or something to sign the minutes, and then I'll bring you up and introduce you to her.
Well, thank you. Okay, it's now 6 o'clock. I'm calling the meeting of the Agricultural Commission to order. At this point, I'd like to perform a roll call. Allison Angelini.
Present.
Russell Holmberg.
Present.
Mike Martelli. Marelli.
Present.
Katie Uhas.
Present.
William Thorne. Bill Thorne.
Present.
Steve Martik.
Present.
At this point, I'll ask for any citizens' comments. The floor is open.
Hi, hello.
Hello, please state
Yeah,
your
hi.
name.
Paul Mogul, 827 Colonel Ledyard Highway, Mogul Sierra Vineyards, just on the road from this town hall. I see what your agenda is and that you are working on what you're being asked to work on. And I just wanted to state that much of that information is available through the NRCS, through the Department of Agriculture, and through the DEEP that handles the PA 490 program. All three of those databases are downloadable and accessible. And you can look at, it is not complete, of course. It will not have all the soil types you're interested in. It will have a lot of them, but anyway, they're there. May you look and may that help you in your search. And that's what I had to say. I hope you do move on to other areas, such as insurance for farms, agritourism and other places, and how to grow and change and morph and develop farming in Ledyard. Any other comments? I'd be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any comments? I do have one comment that, or actually two. Number one is, I think we've been getting off track a little bit. When people do speak, please state your name and where you live in the beginning. And the other point is I think we've gotten off point on our purpose of this commission. Our purpose, if we look back to the original purpose, it was to establish and enable the town of Ledyard to participate in joint partnership programs available through the Connecticut Department of Agricultural's Farmland Preservation Program and the Community Farms Preservation Program, and to obtain funding from the state, the Connecticut Farmland Trust, and other sources to purchase the development rights of farmland for future preservation. And I think sometimes we got a little bit off track on that. So I just want to remind everybody that that's our marching orders. Are there any other citizen comments?
Yeah, this is Bill Thorne. I don't mean to, maybe this is not the appropriate time, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, Bruce. But we had a wealth of information that was provided by Roxanne here, and I've been reading through it. And, you know, it talks about a guide for municipalities. Now, this may not come under our guidance, but under the non-regulatory approaches, there's a whole bunch of stuff about the, you know, the various programs at the state level. This is on page 53 of 68. There's a whole bunch of things that they suggest the town do. You know, talks about designating municipal staff or commissioning. I mean, there's a list. But I think, you know, I guess the question I have is who's doing that if it's not us? And I think that is what I think Paul was trying to suggest, that, you know, maybe the ordinance is the issue and it's actually hindering us from looking at other parts. I mean, this is guidance from the state. And again, maybe it's with some other commission other than ours, but I don't know who's doing it. And I think it's pretty broad. It talks, you know, and it really is more like what I think of, you know, as we're, you know, should be doing. it's great about what you talk about the various programs, but some of those programs have been in place in the state for 20, 30 years. And,
Correct.
and if farmers don't know about them yet, I mean, we got a problem. Because, I mean, they're talking about, 30, especially the development, which is a 30-acre minimum requirement. And, and they've been struggling over those, I think it was mid-90s that program was put in place. And they've been struggling to get up to their goal, and they haven't got there. So all I'm trying to say is that's great. But I think some of those programs are important. But I think they're well established, and some of the other aspects that is, again, addressed on page 53 of 68, although 68 was a lot of duplication. I think there's some gems in there that we could build on. That's all I have to say.
Any comments on that?
Hey, Bruce, this is Kevin Dabrowski. I'd like to make a comment. So some of the statutory requirements that we need to follow as far as getting grants, especially the smaller farms, not so much the bigger farms, but the smaller farms who are not eligible for the big, the grants or the buying of the development rights. In order for the town to participate in having farms within the municipality, this agricultural commission had to be established to support that by statute. So the reality is when the ordinance was drafted, it was, part of it is to go through to catalog those smaller farms that are in town that may not be available of this type of grant funding that would be, and to kind of facilitate to work with those smaller farms.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm 100%. I agree with that totally.
So I just got to say is and I think where Bruce was trying to go is that some of the discussion as far as like, let's establish additional farmland in Ledyard, that falls outside the purview of how the ordinance is currently established. There's no authority granted to this commission to go figure avenues of increasing farmland in Ledyard. Now, I'm not saying I'm against that or not, but that's outside the scope of the ordinance that establishes this commission. If that is something that this commission wishes to go do, then I would recommend that you approach the town council to have the ordinance updated to include those. But I think we got to be careful about where we're going right now. Great for discussion, and I'm not saying not to have the discussion, but just be wary that there's only certain things you can do that's currently in the ordinance. Like I said, the ordinance can always be amended and changed. That takes a little bit of time, but it can be done. So if the commission feels that there's additional work that you want to take on, then by all means, I would suggest you go to the back to the town council to say, we want to take on this additional work and burden and to support farming and farming communities within the town.
Yeah, Kevin, I didn't imply we want to expand. I just want to support what's here now. I think that.
Yep, I agree with you, Bill. Yeah, but like I said, the real big impetus was this, and I'm not sure if a lot of people realize, but when Pete Bargman's farm was having issues and he was trying to figure ways of getting subsidies from the state in order to maintain his property and his farming, we had talked to the state as far as how long this agricultural committee is actually what is required by statute to support the smaller farms that aren't eligible for the big grants to go by the development, but in order to support to continue farming on a smaller, because it's very important that even small farms within communities to continue on for sustainability within the municipality. So, we need to catalog what farms are in. Many farms may not even realize a lot of this stuff even exists. Maybe they do, and maybe they don't want to deal with the state. That's a whole different issue. But it's kind of to help facilitate that kind of thing for farms that do need help.
I 100% agree. This is Bill Thorne.
Are there any more citizen comments at this point?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I would like to dispense with the reading of the minutes if there are no objection. Since there are no objections, I would like to get a motion to accept the minutes as distributed. Now I get a motion to get the minutes that were distributed.
This is Allison Angelini. I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Yes, Russell Holmberg, I'll second.
Okay, the minutes pass without exception.
Just a typographical error on page 3 of 6. It has 11/19/21 as the results continued. It's 1/19/21. Just a typographical error, no problem.
Page 3 of 6. Okay. So noted. At this point, we'll continue with the unfinished business. I think we've already stepped upon it already with the partnership programs. Any comments on that from anyone? Hearing none, I think, from my own opinion, I think what we ought to start doing is taking the list that Mike Morelli supplied with the area farms, and we should probably, for our goals, is to maybe consider a mailing and just ask people what they think, if they're aware of the farming programs that are out there, and even if they would be interested. Because if they're interested, then I think we can help them. We have plenty of information there, but if they're not interested, there's no sense in keep going down that avenue.
Well, the only question I have is, as I think Kevin was saying, we sort of focused on the farmland preservation program, but there does seem to be other programs and other opportunities and maybe other things we can incentivize or assist with. I don't know how you include that in the, in trying to request all that. I mean, it's pretty complicated. I mean, and I think I don't know, Allison, maybe you can help. I mean, you're a small farmer. I think most people understand those things, but maybe not. I don't know.
Just to clarify so that I'm sure that I'm understanding, the idea is to create a pamphlet describing some of these state programs that we would distribute to all of the farms on the most recent tax assessor list.
Bruce Gartsky here. I wasn't going that far. I was just seeing if we could put out a very basic questionnaire asking farmers if they're aware of programs that are out there and if they would be looking to apply for some of these programs, because some of them may not. They may not be interested at all, or some of them may know about it and say, I'm not going to do it, or I will do it, or thank you, you have more information. I think what we're trying to do is just touch base with the farmers in town, see if they know there's programs available, and if they're looking to have help, then this commission could supply some of the pamphlets to them that they may need to navigate. I think Katie had a lot of information that she brought up from the department there. So I think that's where I'm trying to come from. I think we have to go right back to the basic building blocks, see the farms, see if they're interested, see if they know about the programs, and if they are.
So Bruce, this is Katie. Just one thing. I spoke with the lady that's running the marketing department, and they're revamping all of the grants. And normally the grants are due like around Valentine's Day, but since they're kind of rebuilding them and trying to figure out where everything fits, it's going to be bumped back till April. So we'll have a better idea in the next few weeks exactly what all the grants are. She ran me through the transition grants, and there's some really, really, really good new stuff for new farmers and a bunch of different categories. I think there was now 6 or 7 grants just within farm transition grants. Then there's the viability grant, which is what we talked about, that is for municipalities, and I didn't get any information on that. But just as a heads up, we'll have more information on those grants. So kind of hold tight before we give too much information. I like your idea of surveying and seeing what people need. But we're not going to have any information on those grants for a couple more weeks. They're not going to release them, and they won't be due until April for this year.
Okay.
So this is Russell Holmberg. I just want to come on the heels of what Katie said, because I'm familiar with the process as well. And just to clarify, because there's a lot of muddling of terms here, the grants that Katie made reference to would be all like internal to a business. That would all kind of happen on a property with the same property owner. So that might be a grant for expansion within your footprint. Something like buying a new piece of equipment or building a building for hay storage, something like that. These would not be grants for acquisition of farmland. So the town really wouldn't have, other than as a group kind of passing that information along, that wouldn't really fall under our jurisdiction. We could make people aware of it, but the rest would solely be up to them once they went on. These are not the grants that are for like buying out farmland or development rights or anything else like that. I just want to clarify that, because they call them farm transition grants, but they're not really. The terms can be a little bit confusing. That's all.
Thank you, Russell. I think what it shows is that there might be a need from this commission to answer people's questions that they might have. And probably one of the best ways we can do that is through a survey to see if they are interested in grants of that nature. And we could pose it as that too, not just the development.
This is Allison Angelini. My experience has been that there are lots of organizations at the state level that distribute that information to farmers through a variety of means. I receive paper mailings, a number of email mailings. Universities send out information. A lot of farmers are required to attend workshops and things for pesticide certification, and there's always tabling and stuff at those events. And so, I'm not sure that my view is accurate, but it's my understanding that information is pretty accessible to farmers who are interested in it.
Bruce Gartzka here. I can agree with you on that, but I'll say from my own perspective, we have not received anything from email, letters, or anything on our farm. We've received nothing. Anything we have to look to obtain. And I think that might be one of the problems with the farmers in Ledyard. They may not get that information, and they may not be aware of it. And that's the only thing I'm thinking of, is if we do the like we get the basics down and make people aware that there are things out there and we're there to help, I think that's a step in the right direction. But like I say, from our standpoint, my wife and I have never received any information or flyers in the mail.
Yeah, this is Bill Thorne. Bruce, I kind of wonder about that. I was going to ask you, Allison, before Bruce mentioned that, how does a farmer get on this state list? We can, after we've done our due diligence here and come up with what we think is an accurate list of farmers, can we give that to the state so that they can forward that information, forward the kind of information you're talking about to farmers?
Personally, I don't know.
Allison
Allison?
Angelini. I guess I'm just wondering, like, how many of the farms on that list want their information shared with the state? I know that we've talked privately about how accurate that list portrays agriculture in our town. And that's not, you know, our responsibility to assess or figure out. But you know, so I can advocate for that being a reason to put together a survey and sort of reach out to farmers. But my experience with a lot of farmers in this town, and again, I've lived here for my entire life, has been that a lot of them are just private and want to do their own thing. If they're interested in, you know, developing more of a retail type farm, like the one that I operate or the one that the Holmbergs operate, or even, you know, Mr. Mogul, like we've, you know, developed a business that invites the public in. And so, you know, that comes with the responsibility of managing things at a state and a federal level in terms of our paperwork. My impression is that there are a number of smaller farms in town that are not interested in that for whatever reason, and that is not this commission's responsibility to encourage them to do that paperwork. You know, just sort of a different level of farming. Maybe level is not the right word, because that implies it, you know, a hierarchy or an advancement, and that's not what I'm trying to describe. But yeah, I think, you know, I think there's a lot of ways to get that information if you're interested in finding it.
Anyone else?
This is Russell Holmberg. I'd concur with some of what Allison said as far as if you want that information, it's not that hard to find. So within the scope of this committee, I don't know. I don't know if that really is our mission, but I don't know where I stand on that. I don't know where the committee stands on that, but I know for sure that we're supposed to be doing something with farmland preservation. I would be interested if the committee's about farmland preservation and facilitating that within the town of Ledyard. I'd be interested in, of any of the properties listed on that, is anybody at this time considering pursuing farmland preservation, or maybe in the next 5 or 10 years considering farmland preservation? And if the answer is no, I mean, that really changes our scope of work drastically. So I think assessing that just on the farmland preservation front is important, because otherwise that's the lion's share of what we're supposed to be doing. And if there's no interest in it, or an interest in it into the future, then I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Can I speak?
Thank you, Russell. Yeah, I think that's the purpose. Yes.
Hello, may I? I pursued that a few
Hello?
years ago, Russell. I'm Paul Mogul. If I'm a guest, is it all right to speak? All right. I
Yes, it is,
pursued
Paul.
that preservation
Paul.
of our farmland a few years ago. I found out that in Ledyard, the town of Ledyard, in terms of financing farmland from the state, is split in half. Basically, north of 214 is not included. So south of 214 might be included, depending on the type of soil and the size of the farm. It was really based on state finances at the time, which do evolve, may not be in a positive way, but they do change. So before I have to pleasantly, privately suggest that you ask the state, does the entire town of Ledyard qualify for preservation, or are there segments or soil types only that are acceptable to them? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, let me just follow up on that real quick. So
And
I know
this-
for a fact I'm sorry,
Excuse
this is Russell Holmberg.
Thank you.
I know for a fact prime soil types are the highest priority. And that's always been a problem for areas like this, when you've got soils like they have in the Connecticut River Valley out towards Windsor, where they've got development fast encroaching in these absolutely beautiful soils that have no business growing buildings, nonetheless they are. So prioritize, it's always going to be a challenge. The town GIS will overlay the prime soils. If you just go to it's readily available just on the town's website, go to GIS, it'll overlay whether or not your prime soils or not. But Paul, just to clarify, are you saying that you investigated it and your farm didn't qualify?
Russell, it's Paul Mogul again. Yes, I did several years ago investigate the idea, and I pursued it up the Department of Agriculture and then into several other departments over there. And they found out that they didn't have funding for north of 214. Now that may have changed since that time. I really haven't pursued it after that. We went a different way, and we thought we would lock up our land and as a farm for perpetuitum. But well, we were happy with doing the vineyards, so they were fine. But in that sense, we looked into it. There just was no money and no support for. There were two issues here: no money and no support for north of 214 at that period of time. Yes, so going forward, that may change. It's certainly worth asking the state whether we qualify as an entire town, all 35 miles of us, or do we qualify only certain segments of our town, and see what they say. Just worth a question. I mean, it's a phone call. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? I know that reading the PDF files on certain areas, they did, obviously mention soils types, but they also mentioned the value that they would place on those soil types. Obviously, a heavily, a very loamy soil that's good for agriculture, the best, is going to get more money for development rights than a rocky piece of land. So I know in certain areas, it's not that they're not going to buy the development rights, but I think the money that you would get for selling them varies greatly depending on the soil types you have. But that still brings us back to, I think, our original purpose of this commission, and that's to catalog, find out what we have for farms, and just find out if they're interested in selling the development rights. I think that's the prime purpose. And then from there, if people say no, then we could go into other avenues. Any comments?
Yeah, this is Bill Thorne. As far as that specific program of selling development rights, I believe that's acres and more. So that kind of narrows the list. I mean, I'm looking down the list here of farms and looking how many have more than 30 acres. And I don't know. So maybe, maybe that list is only 25% of the total list that really could sell development rights. Not necessarily the other programs that we talked about, the grants and so on, but if that's the focus, the list is a little smaller than we're looking at.
So this is Katie. There's two different programs, Bill. There's the traditional land preservation that is for like big farms, and then they just added a different program that's for smaller farms. It's fairly new, so that's just something to keep in mind. So it might broaden the farms that we talk to.
Okay, so is that, I mean, something new that we could, that maybe smaller farmers may not know about because it's new?
It could be. There's information in our folder, in our ag commission folder, that explains the difference. And then you can also, read in detail the difference right on the Department of Ag website. It explains the two different programs.
Any other comments? I think we've touched upon everything in the unfinished business. Is there any other unfinished business to come before the commission? Going on to new business. We've actually talked quite a bit about that already, but I think it comes down to what we plan on doing to fulfill our obligation for the mission of this commission. I look for ways that people would think they could, that we could do that. And I know I've been saying the survey, but I think that's the primary way for us to find out who's interested. And with a survey, you could always say, if you are interested, we could put you on a mailing list and see if they get a mailing list where they would be updated.
This is Allison Angelini. So the idea would be that we would draft a simple paper survey and mail it to all of the farms on that list from the assessor's office. And then provide information for them to reach us electronically.
I would say that that's the most efficient way to do it. It would be nice if you could just send it out electronically, but I don't think that that's realistic at this point in time. But it would be good that way, and we could have a very generalized questionnaire to see where if people's interests lie in having the farmlands preserved. And if they want additional information from other grant sources. So,
Hey, this is Bill Thorne. Hey, Roxanne, you want to talk about your online questionnaire?
Sure. Can you guys see the just a preliminary survey on your screen? I think I'm sharing my screen now.
yes.
So I put together this preliminary just for you guys to start a conversation. These questions are just, you know, off the top of my head. Like Russell mentioned, you might say, would you be interested now or in 5 years from now? You could change these questions to however you would like. And then, you know, based on a conversation I had with Bruce, I also put together, which was attached to the meeting packet, this, let's just do a stop share. This, you know, sort of brochure, and on the back of it, it has one of those QR codes. So if you take, you know, put your phone up against that, then you're going to be able to open up the survey. You could do the survey off your phone, or you could do it on your computer. So, and what it does is it will take all that information and it will put it into a spreadsheet. So then you guys could sort of see, you know, how many farms you have, how many acres they are, who might be interested, who might not be interested, whether they would be interested in you folks having something like an informational forum, which would be just like this virtual, but the interested farmers could come. And once you've, you know, you'd want to have all your information together, of course, before you send out the survey. But, you know, it would, you could then present the different things like Katie was mentioning. You know, they've got a new program in this little brochure thing here I just put together as an example. I did note the 30 acres of farmland, but you know, this, you can change this language in here, you know, to be anything that you want. So here's, you know, the outside, and you open it up, looks like this. The backside is like this. And there's the QR box right there. So whatever you want to say on here, we could change it, but I'm not sure if I can pull up the, I did do a test. Let me see if I can find it. And let's see here. Oh. Unfortunately, I thought I sent it to myself here, but because I'm on my home computer, but I didn't. But it just pops up as a spreadsheet, and all the questions that are on this survey which, you could change to say whatever you want, would go into the spreadsheet. So, you could send this out to the farmers that we're aware of in a mailing. We could post this survey on the town's website. You can leave some of these pamphlets, in the, like at the village market, the library, places like that. So if people picked it up, maybe, as you mentioned, there might be farms that we're not aware of. They might see this and say, gee, maybe I might be aware. Maybe, maybe they haven't even thought about preserving their development rights. And it might just start, as Bruce said, start that conversation.
And this is Katie. And, if we have a handful of people that are interested in this, we'll get someone from that department and, have them be part of the conversation, rather than just me, who is kind of going back and forth and I don't understand it all the way through. But, have someone come on here that can actually answer questions on the spot. If we have enough interest, I think it would be more productive than having me kind of going back and forth between.
I think what Roxanne put together, including the pamphlet and the online questionnaire, which is probably the best way to do it. I mean, she's got it so you can do it on your mobile phone or your computer. It's probably the way we'll get the most responses. So I think it's a great start. I think it just needs some refinement and is probably going to be a good way of gathering information. Probably the best way, as opposed to giving somebody a piece of paper and asking them to fill it out and send it back. That probably will that alone, that encumbrance alone will probably result in, a huge number of people not getting it. So I think that it's a good approach, and I think we just need to refine it. That's all.
Roxanne, would it be possible to have that in the events magazine as well?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, we have to, well, we just got the new announcement. We have to get our things to the events magazine by February 2nd, I believe. So this would be something that you would want to, really know what you want on the questionnaire. So, we could say, do a little article saying that you're doing a questionnaire, and we could put this QR code right in the events magazine, but we'd want to finalize whatever the questions are, so that when they do click on that, the events magazine would be coming out in March. So we have to get the article to the mayor's office by February 2nd. The events magazine would be coming out in March. So you could, theoretically finalize your questions either tonight or at your meeting in February, because we could keep the same QR code. We would just, as Bill mentioned, just refine the questions, and then it would be good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Bill Thorne. I mean, I think getting our some basic information out in the what they call events magazine, maybe trying to get the details put together by then. When did you say it had to be done, Roxanne?
February 2nd.
Yeah, that may be hard to get it done, but we can at least get some kind of announcement. I don't know how many even people know there is an ag commission, and sort of what our purpose is and that kind of stuff. Sort of the stuff that Roxanne put in the brochure, but maybe consolidated, and just get that out now, and then maybe target the next publication to get the more details out.
Right, this is Roxanne again. We did have an article in the December publication for the Agricultural Commission. We are limited to 250 words in our article. So as you mentioned, Bill, that might be a good idea, is just to say a survey will be forthcoming in the next edition. Just to give them a heads up for people to start to raise some interest and get people starting to think about it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Roxanne. Any comments? Well, I
So
think it's a wonderful idea, but
here's a question. I mean, I did put the links to these on the agenda for tonight.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, unless you have an office.com or I forget what it's called, the one something or other, I can't share the link with you guys to go in and edit it. So, but if you can go to the agenda for tonight, which is where let me see if I'll pull that up for you. Oops, hold on, that's not it. Here it is. Oops, no. Okay, oh, well, this is the brochure that I put together. And here's the QR. Oops, I'm not sharing it, hold on. Okay, so this is the brochure that I put together as just a starting point. There might be stuff that you folks have more knowledge on than I do, and you might want to change some of the wording. But you know, that's that, and I can email this to you. This is a Word document, and you guys can work on it and edit it if you'd like. And then let me get back to the whoops, the survey. Nope, that's not it. Okay. So this survey, if you just go to the agenda and click on the link, you guys can all look at this, and then you can decide if you want to put other things. I mean, the first few are basic: your name, your address, your phone number, your email address. What kind of farm do you have? Is it agricultural, livestock, or both? The total acres of your farm. How many acres are you using for farming activities? Are you currently receiving a tax benefit related to your property? If yes, is it Public Act 490 for farmland, forestry, or open space? Farm machinery from CGS 12-191. And then, would you be interested in learning how to preserve your development rights of your farm for future generations? And then they would just hit submit. And as Bill mentioned, they can do it from their phone. And those results would come into to me, or I would hand this off to Christina, and then it would all go into a spreadsheet. So, you know, if you guys want to look at those two items, you know, and in preparation for your next meeting to discuss, to make revisions to it, then that would be a starting point. I have to go shut off my other meeting, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, this is Bill Thorne. So I think, of course, Roxanne went away when I was going to ask her a question, but I think the two things we need to look at and possibly edit is the pamphlet and the questionnaire. I'm not sure how it's best to do that. Probably to, well, we have the pamphlet in a Word document. The online one is you can get as a Word document, but I don't think she wants everybody inputting that. So Bruce, I think probably the best thing is for you to figure out how the best way is to get input from everybody, and then get that to Roxanne so she's not overburdened with a whole bunch of comments and so on. But I can't say, Roxanne did a great start to this whole conversation thing. Oh, she's back.
Sorry, I had a finance meeting going on in the other room.
I guess what's the best way for us to edit those and get them back to you so you're not overwhelmed with a whole bunch of comment? I was thinking maybe we can do the pamphlet because that's a Word document. The other one is a Word document, but it's online, and then get those to Bruce, and then Bruce consolidate the comments and then get them back to you. Is that the best thing?
Yeah, I think that would work. I don't know if for the office staff here, I think that would be okay. I don't know, you know, how you guys would, you know. Or you can all individually just look at the questions, email whatever questions you would like to add to Bruce, and then some of you might have the same questions. So, then he could go through the list and, say, okay, these people all said this question, so we'll put that one on and, just do it that way. I
Yeah.
think the simpler the questionnaire, the less overwhelming it is and people would be more willing to fill it out. So
I agree.
I think you just want to try and get people interested.
Yeah, I agree. I think, just from quick look at it, you have your address. And if you look at the farm list, and there's people that have, the farm property list is different than what you'd be sending them. And then they'd be, some of these people own multiple parcels.
Right.
So how would that be reflected? So I see that as sort of something, address, is that their mailing address or is that their farm parcel address, that kind of stuff. So I think there's some refinement we could do there. I'll put that together and sort of send that to Bruce and see how that goes. Because, you look at several of these people, they own, Campbell show up multiple times, Gear show up multiple times, so.
Right.
And even the addresses, I don't even know, just for my own, I did one check, first one, the Allen, Clifford and Mary C. And their address on the property list is different than their address on the PA 490 list. So I don't know where you'd send that to. So I guess we have to resolve some of that.
This is Bruce. I know from my standpoint, you send it to the mailing address because a lot of times you can own multiple properties, but it falls under the farm.
Right, but when they fill out the form, do they have to do it for every parcel? Or it'd be nice if we had one, you were able to list multiple parcels in the form.
Right.
I know we had to do it for every parcel. Every parcel has to be filled out because it's not one deed. For each deed that you have to fill out for that parcel of land.
But we do want to make it easy on them, and I right now we're just collecting information. There's nothing legitimate or legal about the whole thing.
But going back to what Bill said, I think, and this is Bruce here, going back to what Bill said, if we put something in the event magazine and letting people know that a survey will be forthcoming, I think that's a good start. It'll let people know that what to expect. And especially if we mention it for farmland preservation, it might pique people's interest, and we could have the symbol there so you could click on it with your phone as we develop it. Any questions, comments? I think we've pretty much covered everything. Is there any other new business or comments people would like to make?
This is Bill Thorne again. Sorry if I'm being a little bit boisterous, but a couple of things I'd just like to mention. I don't really expect us to discuss them tonight, but something to put in the back of our minds. I've thought about this. I know that the Ledyard Fair, and I don't want to get into the Ledyard Fair business, but there's an agricultural portion of the Ledyard Fair that's been going on for years and years and really is a big attraction for me. And I don't know if there's anything we can do to foster or to, make that, because it sounds like the fair is kind of going away. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like that. If we could, get the agricultural aspects of the fair, which we could hold at the current town green, keep that going, or, just look and see if there's any interest in that. I mean, there was a big 4-H and, the Ledyard VOAG was interested in it and that kind of stuff. I mean, they participated. I mean, it would be a shame if that whole part went away along with the fair. Just a thought.
This is Bruce. Again, I think as a commission, it's kind of outside our purview, but if the the members felt like we could write a letter to the town council or something like that, I don't see where that would be a problem, but that really doesn't fall under our objections is what we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do. But if people come to us for questions and want support, I don't see why we would not do that.
This is Kevin Dombrowski. On the working with the Ledyard Fair Association, I don't think there's anything that would stop you from talking to them to see if there's anything that this body could do that could help them or work with them. I don't think that would be outside the scope of, I think I know I mentioned it last month about something, but recognizing that it is not an entity of the
When we
town.
lost you.
Am I out? You lost me again? Am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, yeah, although the Town Fair Association, the Fair Association is not an entity of the town, there is nothing that stops this commission from working and talking with them to see if there's anything that you can do to help them.
Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate that. I was even thinking, I mean, we could work with them obviously, but just, sort of maintaining that portion of I don't even want to call it the fair, maybe that's the wrong term, but, I hate to see that whole agricultural piece go away because the fair goes away. That's all I'm saying.
No, understood. Thank you, Bill.
Is there any other questions? Any more new business? If there's no more new business, I look for a motion to adjourn. From
I'll make the
somebody.
motion. Mike, make the motion to adjourn.
May I have a second? May I have a second?
I second.
Katie seconds.
That's Kate.
And Kate?
Oh, sorry. It's Katie. I second.
Kate. Yeah, and so the meeting is adjourned without exception. It is now, I can't see this. I can't see what time it is. It is now.
It's 6:52. And you know what I'll do is when I send you the email with the this little flyer thing, I'll put the link to the questionnaire in there as well so that you can open it up from your email and look at it there, and then you could put together some questions to send to Bruce. I think that'd be easier.
Well, thank you, Roxanne. And thank you for all your support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll see you tomorrow. Let me know and I'll have them ready for you to stop in and sign.
Okay, I'll text you first.
Okay, great. See you then. Good night, everybody.
Bye now.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thanks, Roxanne.